Everyone's attention span is as short as never before, and that's the reason you're already scrolling down to the comments. So in this video, I'll talk about how your diet and in specific certain nutrients influence your attention span and how you can increase them to ultimately increase your attention span again. Modern technology like our smartphones, TV, Netflix, social media are what really ruin our attention span. However, they also influence your diet by depleting certain nutrients faster, and most modern diets itself contribute a lot to a lower attention span. Now, my attention span was completely garbage around 1.5 years ago, but I can assure you, you can reset it very fast. My problem at that time were three major things: video games, a lack of sleep, and high calcium. So the first thing that I want to focus on is high calcium and the three nutrients that calcium depletes, because chances are that you have high calcium as well and that this is causing you to have a shorter attention span. After that, I'll tell you how you can correct this issue. The video games are of course a completely different topic, but my sleeping issues were also connected to the calcium. Just for context, I needed at least 1 hour every single night to fall asleep. It was usually 1.5 and sometimes even 2. Absolutely no exceptions. Now, when we are looking at diet, we are looking at several things. Macronutrients like carbohydrates, fats, fiber, protein, the stuff that you can see on the back labels of your food, calories, the stuff that most people focus on. And then we also have essential nutrients, because believe it or not, macronutrients alone do not keep you alive. So we have these so-called micronutrients, and these are vitamins, minerals, and even essential fatty acids. And they're again not an addition, you actually need them. Now on my list you could just see how many there really are. So it's not just vitamin C and vitamin A. What you have to understand now is that all of these nutrients interact with each other. That's biology. Now the reason I'm telling you this is because it's not about getting these nutrients in the highest amounts possible. You can get too much of certain nutrients or too little of certain nutrients. It's really all about a balanced ratio. And that's very complicated, especially in our modern times. And by the way, the RDAs on your multivitamins or the values in your multivitamins have absolutely nothing to do with that. If you want a good tip to improve your health, stop taking these multivitamins. So let's get back to the calcium. Calcium is actually one of these nutrients a lot of us are getting too much of. I consumed oatmeal with yogurt every single day for years. Now, whenever you hear calcium, I want you to think of dairy, in specific milk, yogurt, and cheese. So I had extremely high amounts of stored calcium in my body, and because of this extreme, I'm the best example, and that's how I found out what I'm about to tell you now. Calcium works as a stimulant. I ate this every time before I went to bed, and later I found out that this was the reason for my insomnia. Now, calcium works closely together with another nutrient, magnesium, and this is where it gets interesting. The more calcium you consume, the more magnesium you need, and vice versa. So they need to be in a certain ratio to each other. The tragedy of this ratio is that a lot of us are getting a lot of calcium and almost no magnesium. By the way, we are talking about the cellular level here. So a normal calcium blood value is not decisive. And reality is that magnesium is mostly missing in our salts and water, and the little amounts that we do get are being heavily depleted by stress and overstimulation, like in all social media platforms nowadays, carbohydrates and sugar, and another thing called radio frequency electromagnetic fields. These are specific electromagnetic fields used by most modern technologies like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you name it. If you want more information on the actual mechanism and the health effects of this radiation, you can check out this video. So to sum it up quickly, we are literally suffering from a magnesium deficiency pandemic. And that's the reason why nearly everyone that increases their magnesium is seeing major improvements in their lives. And that's also the reason why I told you earlier that you probably have high calcium, because even if you don't consume a ton of calcium like I did, you're certainly missing the magnesium. And so your ratio is off either way. While calcium stimulates your nervous system, increases brain impulses, magnesium calms the nervous system down, increases GABA, and relaxes your muscles. And again, remember, your body depends on magnesium. We're not talking about some random herb from South America that my ancestors in Europe have never had access to before. My ancestors, which were all, by the way, a lot healthier than we all today, all had more magnesium. And so here's a study that confirms that people with a magnesium deficiency are more likely to develop ADHD. ADHD equals short attention span, hyperactivity like in high calcium, etc. So in other words, magnesium will increase your attention span. Basically what happens when you increase your magnesium, you will stop having these 1000 random thoughts going into every single direction possible. Instead, you have less thoughts, but more directional thoughts, more focused. Let's look at the next nutrient vital for your attention span, zinc. Another study showing that zinc deficiency goes hand in hand with ADHD in children. Now, how does calcium have anything to do here? Calcium lowers the amount of zinc absorbed. These two minerals compete for absorption, and plants have certain compounds called anti-nutrients, and some of them, like phytic acid, severely reduce zinc absorption. That's also why plant foods do not supply you with sufficient amounts of zinc. Zinc greatly improved my attention span, and it's vital for dopamine synthesis, testosterone production, and many neurotransmitters vital for normal neurological function. Now let's look at the third and last mineral on this list, manganese. Manganese has many functions, but one of it is suppressing random actions. Like I used to make very weird gestures with my face, and increasing my manganese completely fixed that. So tics and all sorts of things will be reduced when you increase your manganese. However, there's also lots of studies showing too much manganese can lead to ADHD, Tourette, etc. So like in many cases, too little causes problems and too much as well. Generally, manganese deficiency isn't as common as zinc and magnesium deficiency and can definitely be obtained from food alone. Again, calcium reduces the amount of manganese absorbed. They once more compete for absorption in your small intestine, and I had incredible improvements increasing it. Now that is how extreme calcium or high calcium can imbalance your nutrients. I was very deficient in magnesium, I was very deficient in zinc, and I was definitely very deficient in manganese. So now how can we correct this issue? The way to correct your magnesium to calcium ratio, first of all, is to consume less calcium. Maybe a bit less milk. Honestly, the supermarket stuff is full of chemicals and estrogen anyways, so you're gonna benefit in many ways. I would go for max 3 times dairy a week, and then we want to increase magnesium. By the way, butter doesn't really count as dairy in that context now because it doesn't have a lot of calcium. Now, very important to understand at this point is that calcium or dairy is not the absolute devil now. We all need calcium, but usually just very tiny amounts, and the recommended daily value of 800 milligrams is astronomical and will cause many health issues long term. Now, when it comes to getting magnesium from whole foods, believe me, it's not realistic to get enough magnesium from whole foods. It's missing in the soil. However, whole foods have a lot more magnesium than processed foods, especially when they are organic. So go for whole foods and get magnesium as a supplement in the form of magnesium bisglycinate. This form has a great absorption rate and doesn't involve the side effects that magnesium oxide has. I would begin taking 100 milligrams per day and then increase it. When you take too much, you will get loose stool, diarrhea, low blood pressure. I can't just tell you a certain amount because it highly depends on your calcium levels, your height, your genetics, etc. I know that a lot of people do that and that the packaging tells you some random amount as well, but that is really not how this works. For example, I needed up to 1000 milligrams per day in the beginning, and now I just need 100. Now, if you're a bit skeptical at this point or you want to save yourself the time and problems experimenting, I offer private consultation in which we will find the optimal amount very fast. You can check the first link in the video description for more info. So now moving on to the next nutrient, zinc. Honestly, zinc deficiency is another pandemic, and the only sources that supply you with mentionable amounts, meaning they actually fix your deficiency, are red meat, shellfish, and oysters. So I recommend grass-fed beef from local farms because of seafood pollution. And overall, pork as red meat also has some mentionable amounts of zinc, but pork is a very poor choice. By the way, just very short, grass-fed beef from local farms is a completely different food than the conventional beef from your supermarket. It is completely different in the way that you feel after eating each. Very, very different. I'm serious. It's a different food. To get more manganese from your diet, have whole grains, oats, white beans, or coconuts more often. For everything mentioned, I recommend the highest quality. Organic, grass-fed, wild-caught, whatever. Now there's a lot more to talk about in terms of this topic, diet and attention span, and if you're interested in more, let me know by leaving a comment down below. I can make a full course in the future with all nutrients and things involved, and alternatively, if you can't wait, you can reach out for me for consultation, or if you want it more personalized. I try to keep up, but there are many requests coming in right now. Just check the link whether there's free space in the calendar. And as always, have a great day.